Hello everyone, JawJoker12 back here again with another top 5 pick. Now, once again, this is another Dragon Ball Z related top 5 pick, but this just to ensure you guys that I'm not going to continue doing the same old. Obviously, this might be one of my last Dragon Ball Z top 5 picks, so I hope someone can enjoy that one. But once again, this is very subjective, and this is my personal thoughts, my personal reasons. So obviously not a lot of people will agree with my reasons. And of course, if you have your own top 5, put it out there. Let everybody know. But this is my top 5 favorite Dragon Ball Z villains. The best of the Dragon Ball Z villains. Dragon Ball Z is filled with great heroes and characters, but also, as everyone knows in comics and in movies, a great hero must be defined by his villain. And villains definitely define a great hero. Because as dark and crazy a villain must be, you always have to think of a hero's actions through the villain's actions. So, that doesn't really differ around anime or Dragon Ball Z, so let's just get right into it. My number 1 will come soon, but here's number 5. I know that was kind of pointless, but let's get into my number 5, and it has to go to Raddatz. Raddatz is just an awesome character. Amongst the main reasons as to why he's a great villain, he's the brother of Goku and the uncle of Gohan. And he does really sketchy, fucked up shit by the time he meets up. Like, threaten the human race, and force Goku to join him by abducting his fucking son. Kind of fucked up. And threatening to kill the both of them. Also really fucked up. But I think another reason as to why Raddatz is such a cool and great character, but not only character, but villain, is because he's one of the main reasons as to why I think Dragon Ball Z would exist, period. Because if it wasn't for Raddatz, we wouldn't have gotten the Vegetas and Nappas, or the Zarbons and Dodorias or Friezas, because it's because of Raddatz coming to Earth, is because of why everyone really cares about even having contact with Goku and his friends, is because of the Dragon Balls. But of course that all comes later. Basically, Raddatz is also important because he gives a good brief history onto the backstory of Goku. We finally get a good history on what Goku really is, because when you watch Dragon Ball, you think, what is this kid? He's this extraordinarily strong character with this monkey tail, and he has great abilities that don't really make sense, and he doesn't really look like everyone else. He's really crazy looking and freaky, and obviously Dragon Ball is based off Journey to the West, so he's based off Sun Wukong, but at the same time, you kind of think, oh, well, maybe it's just a Toriyama thing, because most of his leading characters at that time were like Astro Boy-esque characters. But when you get into Dragon Ball Z and you get into Raddatz, you get to find out that Goku suffers a humongous Superman complex, where he's, comes from another world that dies and explodes, and and when he comes down here, he has these super abilities that continue to develop over his years. But besides all that, Raddatz is also a really cool character because you really get in deep with the history of Goku, but his family, and you don't really get through any more of that after the significant episodes to come. But I just really like Raddatz. I think he is just an amazing character because he would do anything and say anything just to get his way. And he also would say and do anything to survive. And I think that's a really good reason as to why he's just a cool villain. But amongst that, let's get that aside and just go to my number 4, which has to be Dr. Gero. I know what you're thinking, like, really, Dr. Gero amongst all the great villains on DBZ? I have to give it up to Dr. Gero. I mean, he may not be the most superior or most physically threatening to Goku and the Z Warriors, but he's definitely the most dedicated villain. Like, next to fucking villains like Emperor Pilaf, like, Dr. Gero's fucking dedicated. I mean, he's spent years, his entire lifetime, his whole body practically, to find a reason and a way to not only take over the world, but kill Goku. You know? I mean, like, he creates the androids. He creates Cell. I mean, and their actions are developed because of Dr. Gero. You know, even though the androids come back to take revenge against Dr. Gero in a sense, they kind of follow through with his journey anyways. You know, they're killing people. They're striking fear into the Z-Warriors. They pretty much defeat the Z-Warriors. And of course they get absorbed through Cell, and Cell becomes the fucking ultimate warrior and fucking takes everyone out. So, I don't know. I personally just really like Dr. Gero. He's just a really cool character. Like, if he was in a movie, he would definitely be like one of those like German Nazi scientists who like develop like the big bomb who destroys like an entire country and civilization. Dr. Gero is that, you know, because that's what the Red Ribbon Army practically is. It's the Nazi Germany of the DBZ world, you know. But I just really like Dr. Gero. I really like his design. I like what he's thriving for, which is to not only rule the world, but is to his dedication to this one kid who just did this really like righteous thing, but just has this grudge over him, like that carries for years and years on end, you know. And eventually gets his wish in a sense. I mean, like, Cell does technically destroy Goku, even though it's a self-sacrifice. It's kind of the same thing. So, I guess you kind of can consider that Dr. Gero is probably one of the main villains that actually accomplishes one thing, which is to kill Goku. So, you got to give him that. But moving off of that, let's go to my number 3, which has to go the perfect Cell. Orange Cell. Cell is just an awesome, cool, fucking badass character. When you see Frieza, you're like, God, who's gonna top that? No one's gonna top that. And you got the androids, and you're like, eh. And then you get the other androids, and you're like, And then Cell comes by, and you're like, oh shit. Now this is fucking awesome. You know, he's like this bug-like creature who comes from the future, and then undevelops, and then redevelops, and then absorbs the androids and becomes even stronger, and he has these really cool abilities, like he sucks out the energy from other humans, and he has all, you know, it's just really, really fucked up when I'm saying it that way. You have to actually watch it to understand what I'm saying, but Cell's just awesome. He's just really, really cool. If there was a video game, Cell would be like the boss level of Dragon Ball Z. You know, he's the villain that has all the abilities. And that's another really cool thing about Cell, is that he has all of the Z-Warriors' ability. He has the abilities and strengths of all the universe's greatest warriors. He has Frieza's family. He has Piccolo, generally the Nameks. And he has the Z-Warriors, and most importantly, the Saiyans' abilities. All built inside him, which is really fucking awesome. Really, really cool, because finally you get to see the Z-Warriors and Goku face off a warrior who knows everything about them, knows their strategies, and knows how to take them down so easily, you know? And even though Cell is very, like, you can tell he kind of suffers like a Vegeta and Frieza complex, where he only thinks of himself and he lets others like kind of get the upper hand through to his pride, you know. But at the same time, you kind of got to give it up to him, you know. He's the perfect Cell. Hence his name. So, but moving off that, let's go into my number 2 favorite villain on DBZ. Has to go to Vegeta once again, the Prince of all Saiyans. Must I go any further? Really? Vegeta's just a badass, you know, and if there's one thing you can give it up to him, he's a good fucking villain. He's definitely, once Vegeta comes in, even if you didn't watch the anime and you were reading the manga, you had to look at yourself, and at that same moment where Vegeta and Goku were face to face for the very first time, it was like, Jesus fucking Christ. It was like the first time you saw Batman face off the Joker, in the Dark Knight. It was just fucking badass. And that's what Vegeta is. Vegeta is the perfect polar opposite of what Goku is. Goku is a hero. He's a true hero at heart. He believes in the greater good and in justice and peace. Vegeta gives two shits about that. He only cares about himself and does whatever he has to do to get the job done. And if that means destroying anything that's in sight, even children, he would do it. And even though Vegeta has a great, amazing arc from beginning to end of the series where he develops from the villain to the hero, it's still great to see him, from time to time be a douche. It's just fun. But let's give some honorable mentions before I give my number one pick. Emperor Pilaf. I just really love him. And he's the very first villain. I just really like that. Second, Boo. There's definitely very different versions of Boo, but generally Boo's just really cool. I know he didn't make this list, but you have to give Boo one thing. He's definitely a really cool character, has some of the coolest powers, and also is probably the very first and only villain in the entire series to actually accomplish the number one thing which everyone tried to do, which is destroy Earth. He's the only one who did it. So you have to give it you got to give it up to him. Another one, let's see. The early version of Piccolo, because his arc is just the coolest in Dragon Ball. It's just one of the coolest arcs. Like the same way the Saiyan arc in Dragon Ball Z is like the most badass. The Piccolo arc is the King Piccolo is just really awesome, and just Piccolo inversion in Dragon Ball is just amazing character, and villain arc is just amazing. But let's move off of that and go to number one, which has to go to fucking Lord Frieza. Frieza's just awesome, badass villain. There's no other great villain in Dragon Ball Z than Frieza. There's amazing ones, there's great ones, and there's powerful ones, but there's nothing more awesome than Frieza. Watching Frieza, and it doesn't matter which version you're watching. If you're watching the original Japanese or the English, it doesn't fucking matter. It's fucking creepy. It's fucking scary. I think Toriyama was interviewed, what was it like to invent Frieza or whatever, the creation and development of Frieza, and he basically said, when he was creating the character, he just wanted to put in his deepest, darkest fears into one character, and that's what Frieza fucking is. When you watch Frieza and his actions from the pages of the manga to the anime, it's frightening. It's dark. He believes in mass genocide, for fuck's sake. He destroys planets. He rules planets. He believes that he's the ultimate enforcer in the universe. He's basically, if he was like a Marvel character, he would basically be Galactus, destroyer of worlds. That's what Frieza fucking is. He's just this force of nature that just will not stop. And unlike the other characters in DBZ, does not have a need to develop. He doesn't really care. He has it all. He has the fame and the glory, but that's just not enough for him. He just needs to inflict pain and suffering into others. And I think his battle with Goku is probably one of the more painful ones amongst the many great ones, but definitely one of the most emotionally pleasing to the soul of a anime / Dragon Ball Z purist. It's just amazing. But guys, just had to end it there. Frieza's my number one, and that has been my top 5 favorite Dragon Ball Z villains. I hope you enjoyed this top 5 pick. I do want to thank everyone who's been watching, and I'm sorry most of them have been DBZ related. I do have more other top 5 picks that are not DBZ related, so you can look forward to that. But eventually I'm going to do one. I know I am, but I hope you enjoyed my top 5 pick, and if you had any differences with anything I stated, and as always, if you have your own top 5 list that was different than mine, then please feel free to comment them and show it off. And that's been it, and thank you for watching.